Hi guys, welcome or welcome back. Today I want to share with you the books that I finished in the month of April at last. This is coming a bit late and my voice is not the best since I've been sick for almost a week, but we're gonna move on and I'm gonna show you what I've been reading, and I'm gonna start with A Talent for Murder by Andrew Wilson. This is the first book I finished this month. And it's a crime novel that takes as kind of a template a real life event from Agatha Christie's life, in which in the winter of 1926 she supposedly went missing, or she kind of disappeared and no one knew where she was. And the author is kind of spinning a tale around what could have happened to her. Basically, it's about Agatha Christie going to London and there being kidnapped by a particularly manipulative blackmailer, and he basically asks her to plan a murder for him. So this was really enjoyable. It was very fast-paced. The crime novel itself, the development of the crime and what was going on was really good. What I also really liked about this is that the author clearly had done his homework about Agatha Christie herself. So of course he's thinking about what could have happened to her in that time and what would make sense in terms of, you know, what was going on at that time in her life. She was still with her first husband Archie and they were having marital problems. So there are some things that are known, or at least that were gossip around that time, and he obviously really researched it. And I really appreciated that, and I thought it was really nice also to have this story from her point of view. So it was kind of getting into her head, which was really interesting. How her relationship is with her daughter and with her husband, and how she was getting jealous because he was having an affair. I also really liked how she was exploring the books she wrote. So at the time where this is happening, she had written her first novel, The Mysterious Affair at Styles, and she was working on a new novel that she didn't like so much, or she wasn't really liking where it was going. So I thought that was also really interesting to kind of get in her head about her writing process. And she is also talking about some of her characters and some of the books of hers she likes, or some that she thinks are actually quite bad. So I really like this. So I think this is actually a must read if you're like a big Agatha Christie fan. And as a crime novel it's very enjoyable and I would recommend it if you like that kind of thing. I gave it 4 stars. The next book I then finished was kind of on a whim. So I listened to the full cast audio book of Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I know this book is surrounded by a lot of hype and I'm not such a fan of hype. I tend to go very reluctantly into hype books, even if I'm pretty sure that what the book is about will probably appeal to me. But what happened is that I was watching Bohemian Rhapsody and I love this movie so much, and I was kind of craving for more musical content, and I still had an Audible credit, so I just bought it because I heard that this full cast audiobook is really good, and I can tell you it is really good. I really recommend it. I think, in my opinion, it's probably the best format for this specific book because it's kind of a series of interviews about this 1970s rock band that is fictional, but it's very much centered on this music world in Los Angeles at that time. You know, everything that goes with it. But what I really appreciated about it, and what really satiated my craving for more really musical content, is that it really goes into how songs are created, or how this fictional band created their songs, what the lyrics meant, and it was also a lot about how lyrics can mean totally different things to different people. And this book is very much playing with this idea that by interviewing different people and they're all talking about the same thing that happened, how they view the situation completely differently. And I really like these kind of things. I think it's very interesting, and it also shows how human we are, because we're all different and we all see things differently. And I really, really like this aspect of the book. I do have the feeling, but I cannot tell you for sure because I didn't read it in a physical form, that probably this format wouldn't have worked for me really well as a physical book. I think audiobook for this particular one was perfect because it felt like listening to a documentary, like you would watch a documentary and turn off the picture. And yeah, really recommend the audiobook. It's not a perfect book, I think, and it does have its flaws, and the thing that kind of downgraded it for me was not the overall enjoyment of the characters and the stories. I think they were very well written. There is very little descriptions of places or people, like physical description, but it was very vivid. I kind of had it all as a movie in my head. I didn't need special cues to really imagine what was going on. I think this is really a strength of this book, you know, considering the format. But yeah, one thing that really I didn't like, and it's really just a personal thing, and it's actually at the end, so I'm not gonna go much into detail about it because it would be spoiler, but there is a thing that happened at the very end, and basically it's a trope that is used in a few sitcoms that I can think about. I'm not gonna say which, but I was like, oh, seriously? Like, the book didn't need that at all. And this was kind of like last minute disappointment, so this book wasn't really a 5-star for me, but it is a 4-star, and I really, really recommend it if you like things about music, about rock bands, if you like documentaries, then really, really go for it. Next up, I finished Stay With Me by Ayobami Adebayo. I read this together with Madelyn from her channel Made With Books, and it was the first booktube buddy read that I did, and it was really, really cool, really enjoyable. We were kind of selecting different chapters where to stop reading, and so that we can discuss about it. It was really, really nice. I annotated it quite a lot because I knew that I had to have it all really fresh in my mind to really talk about it in a specific moment. And I quite enjoyed this experience. I'm not the kind of person who annotates a lot. I actually almost never annotate, maybe non-fiction. But this was really nice, and this book plays in modern day Nigeria, and it's about this woman, Yechide, and her husband Akin, who are a young couple, and they're struggling to get pregnant. And it's basically about all the family dynamics around it, all the pressure that comes from their family, about creating a family of their own. I learned so many things about Nigerian society and the place that women have within it, the place also of other religions than Christianity, and some of the superstition that comes with it, because different members of Akin and Yejide's family have different beliefs, and so they're kind of addressing this childlessness in another way. It was also really interesting to see motherhood from this really different perspective. It was kind of heartbreaking also sometimes to read about it, because many of Yejide's family members actually don't view her as a woman because she hasn't had children yet. So I thought this was like I never thought about womanhood in that way, and it's kind of horrifying that that this way of thinking is still around and can destroy a family and a marriage so much. So this was really, really a great read. It put me into a very different perspective, and it was very different from the very European-centered things that I usually read, and I thought this was really great for that. And it really helps you expand your horizon and see other people's way of seeing things. I thought the story in general was very captivating. There are a lot of twists and turns, and it was very, very enjoyable to read about. I didn't see any of them coming, and there's also some twists that are related to some other themes that I'm not gonna address, otherwise it's a spoiler, but I also enjoyed a lot researching about it and also about Nigeria's history, because in the backdrop there's also all the military regimes rising and falling, so that was also very fascinating. The one thing that didn't make it a 5-star for me, let's say, is that this book is written from 2 points of view, so from the 2 main characters, one from Yejide. Most of the chapters are from her perspective, and sometimes some of Akin's perspective, so the husband's perspective, is thrown into, and mostly I didn't see really the point of the chapters from the husband's perspective. They didn't feel very different and distinct from the woman's, which, yeah, I mean, you can read it, they're 2 totally different people. So that was kind of unexpected and a bit disappointing, but other than that, it's a really, really good book. I gave it 4 stars. I would recommend it to anyone. It's very eye-opening and it makes you see other ways of thinking, and I think it's a very, very important read. And lastly, in this month of April, I finished this little collection of legends. If I would translate it, it would be legends from the Rhine, from its source to its mouth. And this is exactly what the book is actually doing. It's going from the source of the Rhine, which is in Switzerland, and it's going all through the French-German border, and then the Netherlands and all the regions that it's traversing, up until where it goes into the sea in the Netherlands. And it was a very enjoyable little collection of legends. I am personally a big fan of myths and legends and folk tales, so this is like definitely my thing. It might not be everyone's thing, and it's also not like every story in this was great, but some of them were really nice and really interesting. What I really liked about the idea of how this book was structured is that it really does the trajectory of the Rhine, and it goes through all these places that really feel very different, and they are really different, and they all have their specificities. So for example, you would start in the Switzerland, and there all the legends are very much built up around nature and mountains and some scary creatures roaming there and so on. And then you go through some bigger cities, some medieval cities that were very important at that time or had a very strong religious presence there, for example, like Köln. And there that you would have a lot of stories that are turned around religion. So I really liked the diversity of this, and you could really feel how each of these places are different and people are different, and I really love when this comes through in legends. And of course, right in the middle there is the famous story of the Loreley, which is a Nyx from the Rhine, and in a place where the Rhine is very narrow, she sits on this rock and seduces fishermen and sailors and then makes them drown. And this is a story very well known in the German-speaking world, and it was also in there, so this was really cool. And yeah, it's just a really enjoyable read if you're a fan of folktales and if you like stories that people tell each other to explain things that they don't understand, then this is great. I gave this 3 stars and it was a lot of fun to read. So that was it for my wrap up for April. I hope you enjoyed this video and you could maybe find something interesting for you. I'm really happy with this month. I read really cool books and I tried to keep it also quite mixed out. I know it's a bit late now, but I would love it for you to tell me in the comments what you've been up to in April, what were your highlights, and what are you planning to read in May. Let me know in the comments below. And yeah, if you're new to this channel, hi, and if you like this video you can subscribe and then YouTube will notify you when I'm bringing out more content. I hope you're having a lovely day and I'll see you in my next one. Bye!